how's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Monsters. This is Season 3, Episode 8, and this one's entitled A Shave and a Haircut, 2 Bites. It originally aired November 18th, 1990, was directed by John Strysik, and was actually written by Dan Simmons. Dan Simmons is best known as a novelist who did things like Hyperion and Drood, but he also wrote the short story that inspired the episode of Monsters from last season called The Offering, the one with the cancer vampires. That was a really cool episode. Good to see him returning, and if I read the credits correctly, it looks like he wrote this as an original screenplay, so cool to see him do that. But what this episode is primarily known for is the cast. This episode stars Wil Wheaton and Matt LeBlanc. Yeah, this is crazy. This is the episode of Monsters where Wesley Crusher tells Joey from Friends about a secret conspiracy where barbers are secretly vampires. Honestly, that doesn't sound like an episode of Monsters. It sounds like what I would dream if I fell asleep during an episode of Monsters, but here we are. That's super cool. Rounding out the cast, we also have John O'Leary and Al Mancini. And I have to say, this is a pretty memorable episode. Again, primarily for the cast, but also just to see what they did, again, with so very little. This is an episode of Monsters that's primarily talking, and it's talking about this conspiracy about how barbers are secretly either vampires or maybe some of them are vampires, and you think, okay, that's like a loose connection. Why would you think that? But then the way that these two go back and forth and bounce it off each other and debate, it actually has some weight behind it, and it somehow reels you in, and it's really hard to explain, but it's really fun watching Wheaton and LeBlanc go back and forth and debate whether this crazy conspiracy could actually be true. And I would say, like, good for them for keeping the balloon up in the air on such a low-budget episode, and it would be memorable just because of A, the good writing, and B, the good acting. But then you get to the end, which I am not going to spoil, but this has one of the best cool endings that I've seen. And like, I kind of knew where we were going, that there was going to be something, but I did not expect the episode to end like this, and it was such a cool moment, but I can't talk about it anymore because I really don't want to give anything away. But needless to say, this one you have to check out. Again, it is a smaller budgeted episode, but it really does pull a lot of weight, and hey, you kind of have to see the one with Wil Wheaton and Matt LeBlanc in it, right? But anyway, if you guys want me to talk about the episode in a bit more depth, I'm gonna go ahead and dive in. I'm gonna be avoiding the end bits, so no major spoilers, but I do want to break down and analyze a few things and just talk a little bit deeper about it. Again, no significant spoilers, but a deeper dive. Anyway, we open up with a sort of wraparound segment with a narrator. This guy goes into a barber shop, and as he sits down to get his shave and a haircut, he talks to the audience and he says, have you ever seen a building like this in your hometown? An older building, maybe it's a barber shop like this, that you don't see hardly anyone go in, and it seems like the inside is kind of frozen in time, like they haven't changed their prices in 20 years. And that is a thing. You do see buildings like that. So we get that relatability there. And then he said, well, I had a friend that tried to convince me that these were secretly vampire hangouts, and then we flash back to the past. It is a real, like, Stephen King style host segment, I will say. Really did remind me of something like The Body, you know? But we go to the past, and we get to see Wheaton and LeBlanc there, and Wheaton is this nerdy kid, and he's become a real horror fan lately, and he's been looking in the shop across the street, noticing strange stuff, and has begun to suspect that this barbershop might be a front for vampires. Yeah, Wil Wheaton in this episode is kind of like the Frog Brothers from Lost Boys, also with the window thing, a little bit like Fright Night. And I mean, hey, with the Stephen King connection, you can even throw in a little bit like Salem's Lot in here. They really are borrowing lots of cool vampire stories and spinning their own tale. But we have LeBlanc, who's just kind of sitting there, and he's a football player, and he's friends with Wheaton, and he's like, oh, come come on, you can't believe that, that's just silly. And they start to do their back and forth in their debate. And I was like, how would you connect vampires to barbers anyway? And it actually does have a pretty solid line. Basically, vampires started to disappear around 600 years ago, and that was when the Barbers Guild was founded. Well, barbers, their guild sign, the spinning pole, turns out the red actually represents blood, and the blood is because way back in time, barbers also did surgery, which they did not make up for this episode. That is a real thing, and I've heard it before. But yeah, I guess they cut things, right? Just make them do surgery. Well, it turns out a lot of this surgery back in the day was bloodletting, and Wil Wheaton thinks maybe the vampires decided, hey, things are getting too hot right now. What if we pretended to be barbers and just harvested our blood without people noticing? And he says the people across the street, people go in and out carrying mysterious jars, and some of them appear to be full of a red liquid. Yeah, that's actually a surprisingly solid setup, and I was really amazed that we could take two seemingly unrelated things and form such a strong connection. But of course LeBlanc is there, and they do have a really good back and forth with each other. Like, really, it's a weird combo that somehow works. They do play off each other, and LeBlanc will say things like, come on, can't vampires not go out in the sun? You've seen these people. And Whedon's like, no, some books say they just don't like the sun. And there's a bunch of stuff like that, a bunch of back and forth, and a really interesting and lively debate that, again, even though it's just the two talking, solidly written, solidly acted. That is so crucial to a story like this. Well, of course, Whedon's going to say, hey, let's go and break into this place and see if we can figure out the truth. LeBlanc doesn't want to do it, but of course he tags along, and we get the debate continuing to a second set. Now, I will say one thing that bugged me a little bit about this episode is they're looking around the main part of the barber shop, and I'm like, okay, there's not going to be that much going on in the main part. You gotta look deeper. You gotta go into the back, right? And that may have just been me kind of, overstepping the plot and wanting to see, like, what's going on. But they do uncover a few interesting little clues in the office. But of course, needless to say, things do not go 100% smoothly, and they're going to find something quite horrific. I mean, this is an episode of Monsters after all, but that being said, I did not expect the ending to go that far or be that extreme. And yeah, that was a thing. Like, for real, most of this episode is a conversation-heavy episode, but then you get to that end, and it's like, okay, we're gonna do something really cool now. I feel weird talking around it, but I absolutely love the ending. So overall, definitely a great episode. You can watch it kind of just out of curiosity. I think a lot of people who are fans of Star Trek or Friends might just pop this one on to see what's up. But outside of just the curiosity, it is a fun episode. And yeah, it's really cool. I really liked it. And again, another episode in this long chain. I think this is like the fourth really solid episode in a row. So here's hoping we get more. Maybe season 3 will turn out to be the best one. Fingers crossed, am I right? Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Monsters playlist. If you guys want to see me talk about the past episodes of the show, you should be able to find them there. Anyway, have a good day. See you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.